Hiya, welcome to the Heaven 17 studio, home of the hits. We wish.
Home of the hit. This is where it all happens. Mainly that side. It all happens on this one computer, which will mysteriously come to life now.
This is where we wrote, how many albums in here?
Just the one, or two albums. Bigger Than America and Before and After.
Yeah, 2 albums in here.
And recorded them in here. And mixed them in here, largely.
Yeah. And we're now going to sit down, have a little chat to you, answer some of your questions, and then show you around some of our wonderful artworks.
We might get a job on the Antiques Roadshow.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's kind of like Antiques Roadshow anyway. Musical antiques.
How much is it worth? Oof, about £1.50.
Cheap as chips.
Is that everything still in that cupboard?
You don't even want to look in the cupboard.
There's a cupboard in there that'll just scare the life out of you.
I can't even open it, even for filming purposes. It's.
There's all. He's got loads of everything's in there from our life as Heaven 17 together.
That's right.
And it's the equivalent of a large capacity bin bag.
I might go rooting about in it later. You never know.
Just for that.
Recently, I sold a lot of equipment because you don't really need desks anymore. It's all done by the computer. And this guy from Amsterdam turned up, and he was a big Heaven 17 fan, and paid me a good price for the desk and everything. But he brought 10 people round. He was like taking photos of everything. It's like being in his own personal kind of geek world, you know. And
how long did he stay?
I made the mistake. Oh god, it was like 2 hours. Oh no, he was nice, and he owned a studio, and he was a proper geezer. But he wasn't. He just wouldn't leave. You know, it was like. And eventually, I mentioned the cupboard, and he made me open it up and.
It's like a lucky dip. Did he put his hand in and pull out a piece of history?
It's like eBay heaven in there, you know. I mean, it's like you might find masters and stuff. You just don't know. I don't know. I'm not it.
It was funny when we were doing that Scala gig. Actually, I came round and there was a couple of tracks that we couldn't find. You know, like the backing tracks for like the pieces that we needed to listen and rebuild it. And he said, I've looked everywhere, it's nowhere, I've been everywhere. And I said, have you looked in the cupboard? And he said, yeah, loads of times I looked in the cupboard. So he said, you're welcome to have a look if you want. So I went in and pushed the door opened the cupboard, put my hand on literally the first box that my hand took, dragged it out, and it was a bunch of DATs, and he said, and it was the right box, completely by random. So it is all in there, you just need to have faith. So I have here some questions that we've printed out from the website. I've not looked at them previously, Martyn. So
good. Well, I think you're going to be excited.
Could have anything.
I think you'll be very excited by this.
On here, the first one is quite a pertinent little question. Why do only one date? With all the preparation and work that goes into a gig, surely it would have been better to go on the road properly.
2 problems with that. The reason I'm shouting is because it's quite noisy outside. 2 problems with that. One is that we don't get any tour support anymore because we're not signed to a major label. So therefore, we actually kind of broke even on the Scala gig, which is fine. You know, we're happy about that, and it's great to be able to show people a new album in all its glory. But and we were playing a series of dates, but it proved to be uneconomical, frankly. I mean, we can't afford to be paying to play, and a lot of the venues that we were looking at, it's very boring but true that we couldn't actually get enough money together to make it happen. So it's not that we didn't want to do it. The fact is that the promoters wouldn't pay us enough money to do it.
Not that we wanted tons of money or anything.
Oh no.
We only wanted, you know, to make enough.
We need to cover costs.
To costs, really. Yeah. It's not like we're asking loads of money, but anyway, that's why we didn't do that one. And also, the amount of preparation that we did for that gig wasn't really that great because we only did 1 day's full rehearsal, and Martyn and I did a lot of work in the studio beforehand. But I think if we were going to do a really big gig, it would be more of a Well, actually, no, that's not true, is it? Because we had all the stage show and everything.
No,
you're probably right.
You're probably right. We should do some more dates, but
Yeah.
we need people to come with a bit more money for us to do it. Unfortunately.
All right, here's one, a good one. Is a joint Heaven 17 Human League tour something the guys would seriously like to go ahead with? If so, is it ever likely to happen?
I've been trying to talk to Philip about this for quite a while. Can't get hold of his mobile number. Apparently he never answers it anyway. And Simon, what's the name of his manager? Anyway, I've talked to him on and off. We've been very keen to do a gig together for quite a while. We did a small gig together, and down at the Astoria, didn't we? Once. We did a couple of numbers.
We also did a gig in
on the
coast.
tour.
No, on the coast. We did one.
Really?
Yeah, we did a school dinners, one of them was called.
Oh yes, school dinners,
which was really good. I really enjoyed it. It was nice to be on the same.
Yeah. No. So basically, the thing is, I've personally always had this idea that I think it'd be great to do the first 2 Human League albums in one night, one before the break and one after the break, just as they were, performed as they in the same order as the album, and that I think would be fantastic if we could get together with Adrian Wright to do the original slides. That's for the Human League, but also in terms of Heaven 17, I've always thought it would make a great lineup. Would be Heaven 17, the Human League, and ABC. I think that would probably sell out in a lot of different venues around the world, frankly, because it's got a theme,
Yeah, we'd like basically. The answer is yes. We'd really like to do it, but whether it's going to come off or not, it's out of our hands, really. I mean, we'd certainly do it if everybody else was agreeable.
And also, we quite like the idea of going on first, so we can get to the bar earlier.
Yeah, we do like to go on early, don't we?
Yeah. So there's no problem with billing at all.
No. But then we could all come on at the end and sing. What would we sing at the end?
Oh, there's a good question. It'd be something like. That's a really good one. What would we sing?
We'll come back to that one at the
something
some
like
other
raindrops keep falling on my head or something.
No, definitely something to do with Sheffield, wouldn't it?
Sheffield.
What's another Sheffield band track? Def
Joe
Leppard.
Cocker.
Joe Cocker or Def Leppard?
Get cut by a little help from my friend.
Yeah, that's it.
That'd be good. Can you imagine all the lead singers all waving their hands around? It'd be fantastic.
Here's a controversial one for you. Do the boys regret any of the work they put out, circa Pleasure One and Teddy Bear Duke and Psycho?
Cheeky.
Yeah, I hate them both, those albums.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you hate them?
No, I don't hate them, but I don't think they're... Actually, no, Pleasure One's quite good, but there's half and half. But Teddy Bear Duke and Psycho is certainly not my favourite.
No, it's not to be your favourite though, does it?
No, but it's less than favourite. I do quite dislike it, really.
I've not really listened to it. I haven't got a copy of it, I don't think.
No, I haven't either. But
you can't get it, it's deleted, isn't it?
It's probably for the best, in my view.
I think you're being a bit revisionist. I think it wasn't that bad. I think what happened was we lost a bit of confidence after Pleasure One. And so the whole impetus of it went more and more towards using session players and live stuff, and it was more like we had less confidence in our own ability to create tracks. We were still okay with songwriting.
I blame you for that, though.
Yeah, well, you can do what you want. Okay. No, it probably is my fault. And
but I also think what it was is that you and I had kind of stopped arguing as much, which we got back into now when we're working. But then it was, I used to capitulate more, and then cause it was just like, because you are really hard to argue with, because you don't like.
So I'm right. Generally.
Yeah, exactly. You don't really ever lose an argument. You just put it somewhere else and come out another date. So I think.
Okay. So do I get the credit for the good stuff then?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that, but it's.
It works both ways. Doesn't
it does work both ways. Yeah. But I think whereas since we kind of stopped working together and then got back together, you and I have definitely, I know we don't argue in our day-to-day life, but when we're working, we tend to get a bit.
Yes. Well, I mean, anyway, in any case, I don't think that's completely true. But there again, I'm arguing with you.
Would the band consider some form of candid biography?
of the past 30 odd years?
Yeah. There's actually a guy in Germany called David.
I don't know.
Anyway, he writes for Mojo magazine. David Buckley, that's it. And he wants to do a Heaven 17 book. Well, or a Heaven 17 Human League combined book. And the problem, once again, is A, who's going to buy it? How many people? And B, are the Human League going to actually cooperate? And so far, I mean, I think there's a good chance it's going to happen at some point.
We certainly would never shy away from a candid biography. We're pretty candid.
I don't think.
Anyway,
I don't think it'd be. I think it would be an interesting book because we've always approached our work from a kind of intellectual and artistic viewpoint anyway, and so we do actually have something to talk about rather than and then we were on tour and then we slept with some groupies,
which never happened. Unfortunately, there you go. With side products on the go, Illustrious for Martyn, Honeyroot for me, both of which this chap really rates. I thought it said hate them for me. Rates. Has Martyn any plans to carry on his excellent production work? And is Ian up to anything non-Heaven 17? We'll take Ian secondly.
I sent this question in.
Oh, did you? It sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah, the giveaway is the word excellent. So, are we planning to do what?
Are you going to do any more production work, basically? Because you've got your side projects with Vince and everything, but are you going to do any more kind of BF stuff, I guess, is what he's asking.
Oh, right, BF, yes. Well, I'll come to BF, but from a production point of view, I think it's a pretty poor state of affairs nowadays that record companies won't actually fork out proper money to produce albums unless you're, right at the top of the tree. So basically, unless something exceptionally interesting came along, I can't imagine how much money they're going to have to pay me to do 3 months of work on a band that's not sold any records yet. I can't imagine it happening. In fact, the only one that I wanted to do, and you're going to reckon that this is a lie, but it's not, was 18 months ago. I was tipped off about the Arctic Monkeys by somebody in New York, and I wanted to do it. And I tried contacting their manager, and to no avail, and then I got mixed up with doing some other stuff, so it didn't actually happen because I really like their demos. And anyway, on the BEF front, I'm planning a new album called The Dark.
You heard it here first, kids.
Yeah, he did. And dark versions, minimalist electronic versions of cover versions, probably done by actors and actresses instead of singers this time. The template sound-wise,
but not soap stars. You don't mean?
Oh no! I mean proper, famous people you've heard of, type, or theatre people, And basically, it's all in an endeavour not to sell any records at all, fundamentally.
So dark, with actors and actresses.
Actors and actresses, and kind of atonal backing tracks.
That'll never work. Brilliant.
Yeah, good.
Can't wait. Can I do one?
Yeah, I want you to do one.
Good, I shall look forward to that one. What has been the group's favourite live gig, individually and collectively?
That's a good one.
It is a good one. I did enjoy the Scala. I couldn't hear anything on stage. My monitor, I don't know if it went down or whether it just was rubbish from the start, because the sound was pretty rubbish. But I couldn't hear anything, and I was really shouting. And even though I was enjoying, the audience and everything being there and it being filmed, it felt great. I was actually really having to work hard to sing, and I couldn't really hear anything. So God only knows what it sounds like on the
I think
DVD.
You sang very well that night. I must put a word in for the PA people down at the Scala. They were pretty poor. Well done. I think it might have been deliberate because I shouted at them in rehearsal. I think they randomly switched off various monitors at various times.
Yeah, well, you live and learn.
You live and learn. We'll promise to be nice next time. Not.
I think my favourite gig might have been the one. Was it is it called the Waterside somewhere? One of the really first ones that we did.
Oh, Norwich.
Waterfront, it was called.
Ah, it's there, isn't it? Oh, I took it down.
Oh no, it's on the floor over there.
Hold on, let me just get that.
Oh yeah, you've got a radio mic, haven't you? Good job I didn't get up there. I'd have been ripped off.
Where is it? There we are. I feel like an old bloke getting his war medals out.
Covered in
dust. Can you
dust.
get one for me? There we are. The waterfront.
Yeah, I guess that was. There's Marshy with his. Hang on, let's clean him off. Marshy with his Travis Bickle haircut. Thought it looked great with his Mohican.
We're wrong with Fleetwood back, not Max.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, that was one of my first. That was one of the very first Home 17 gigs, and we figured no one would really come down to the Norwich waterfront. But in fact, it was absolutely jam-packed, and people had travelled from Holland and Germany and Belgium, I think maybe even Canada, and I was just gobsmacked.
Yeah.
And really happy.
We've been very lucky to have a lot of people that come from all over the world to see us play, because we didn't play live properly for 17 years, so they were kind of gagging for it by the time we actually started. And we are grateful to all our fans who've put a lot of effort into kind of archiving our history as well, particularly Sumo and the guy who gave us the DVDs.
Oh, they're great. I haven't got mine yet.
Oh, it's there. I gave it to Keith Button, you know.
Oh, really?
I gave a copy to Keith Button, yeah. Because Ian's
cool.
never going to pick his up, is he?
Nah. But you got one for me, yeah?
Yep, it's there. Took it.
I shall take that. I promise. Okay, good question, that one, Sumo. Nice one. Oh, right. Yeah, although many of the tracks on Retox Detox are quite interesting, is there any chance of hearing some remixed, revised versions of I'm Your Money or tracks from Penthouse and Pavement in the future? And when was I'm Your Money last played live? The answer to that one is never. Never played it live. I tried to work out how to do it for the Scala, because I knew a lot of people were interested in doing it and I wanted to do it. But I spent about a week, trying to get it into some kind of workable live order, but it just wouldn't. It didn't happen. It's just not, it can't be done, I don't think.
It's a period piece, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I think. It's like, it's so much of its time that it's hard to update.
And it's also hard to you can't really even do it as it is as well, because it's just a kind of bizarre, long, rambling piece, with not much structure,
and it's got like 4 other speaking parts in it.
Yeah, exactly.
And stuff, it could be done, but basically we couldn't find a way to do it.
I mean, the idea for that, I had a good idea for that, which was to use kind of robotic, voices doing that, like Kaufen Sie diese, that kind of thing, and the German and the Spanish. But even with that, I still couldn't make it gel really as a live thing. You could have done it as a remix. It would have worked, I think.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have. It didn't work for live.
Maybe it should have been a rapper that we got to do all that stuff.
Thank you. Maybe Ian could do a rap.
Well, I saw Vince Clarke doing a rap.
Really?
At the Erasure gig last year, where they did Rapture by Blondie, and he did the bit in the middle. So fantastic. It's the last thing you expected to happen.
Brilliant.
He was good too.
He is good at doing that, isn't he? Yeah. Are you guys already working on a follow-up to Before After?
No. Although nothing's ever ruled out, but the thing is, you just don't know what's going to happen. I read the other day in one of the trade magazines that they were talking about the latest fashion is for bands to put out EPs.
Yes,
and digital EPs. We were talking about this 10 years ago, weren't we?
Yeah. Someone emailed me that actually.
And because then myself and Glenn in particular are very busy, so it's kind of hard to find time to kind of potter like we used to and just create stuff. But if you're aiming at, say, a 3 or 4 track thing, it's a different thing entirely. And then maybe if there's enough kind of sales generated or interest generated by that, then you could do a compilation after a year of all the tracks. I'll tell you
something, it's kind of related to one of those questions that just came up, but my mum sent me a cassette down a couple of months ago, and on it is the very original demo for Temptation.
Really?
Yeah. Really, and it sounds, oddly enough, really quite contemporary. But I've no idea who the girl was. It's just that it's kind of a spoken part. I think we must have met her in a bar. And
I don't like to think about that.
And it's just kind of spoken.
Liked her? Why would we like her?
I don't know, she must have been pretty. No, I don't know, but I do vaguely remember going back to the studio late at night
That's when
and
we were
saying,
staying.
try this.
No. We were staying at your place at Oxford Gardens, weren't we?
Yeah, that's right. And it's
That's when we were writing those demos.
Yeah, and it sounds good. And it's got the same melody, but not the girl pop melody, because the girl, if you remember, came really late. We tried loads of girls before we got to Carol Kenyon, and they all sang it in a slightly different way, and that kind of, her part was very much Carol Kenyon, so that's why you know it as that. But in the original, it's just it's very linear, it's very spoken, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no kind of dynamics.
No dynamic.
No kind of obviously the orchestra help.
But it's exactly, there's no orchestra. It's just kind of drum machine and synth. But it sounds really good. It's very good.
You did play it to me once, but I'd like to hear it again. Maybe we should put it out. It's about the time of the decade, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
When we put a new version of Temptation out and make some money for a change.
Well, I don't know if this will make any money. It's a little bit mad. You never know.
Never know. You just need to get some DJs to jump on it. We could a few podcasts. That'll make a difference.
Okie dokie. Thank you, Mum, for that cassette. Although when I got it, it took me 2 weeks to get it because I haven't got a cassette player. Couldn't actually find it, but I finally got one. I put it in the computer, cleaned it up a little bit. Sounds very nice.
They're just currently, and by the time this DVD comes out, probably will be on the streets. Hopefully, they're just remastering all the first 3 albums, and boy, are they going to sound much better than they ever did.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Have you heard one?
Yeah, it sounds amazing. Honestly, all the bottom ends there were, when they mastered them onto CD, they just took the mastering that they did for the vinyl onto the CD, and it just sounded terrible. Whereas this is reconstituted all the bottom end, all those drums sound fantastic, everything sounds really meaty, all John Wilson's bass playing.
Wow.
It's really incredible, and it sounds very contemporary now because they've done it using banded compressors, and it all sounds very loud and kind of in your face. It's cool.
Can't wait. We'll get one free.
Yeah, we might even sell it for you. Who knows?
What are the Men of Heaven 17 working on individually? Well, at the moment, I'm doing a new Honeyroot album with Keith. Just finished working on a whole heap of scoring for BBC just before Christmas, but now we're exclusively doing the new Honeyroot album, which we hope to have finished by August. Martyn is doing...
I'm doing the new BEF album called Dark. It might be called Dark/Sensitive, which is going to be minimalist electronic versions of my favourite tunes that you wouldn't expect, really. It's reinterpretations of kind of lyrics that you wouldn't expect in a dark context. Also with Illustrious, we're doing a big choral piece at the Sage in Gateshead. We're working with a choral company called Mouthful up there. 30-piece choir in a surround sound auditorium. That's going to be fantastic. Can't wait for that with Royal Ballet Dancers. Also, not finished yet.
Busy boy.
We're doing the British Pavilion at the Venice Architectural Biennale together with some other people from Sheffield. This year it's all about Sheffield. We won the pitch against some of the top architects in Britain, which is amazing. And I'm doing a three-dimensional sound installation there in several of the rooms, including one based on intros of songs from groups based in Sheffield, including us, of course.
Wow.
That's just a...
Give that one a go.
A few things, there's loads actually. Keep up to date. www.illustriouscompany.co.uk. That tells you all the latest news.
There you go. Okay, here's one.
Volker was the name of the guy who gave us the DVDs, by the way. Volker Butner. Sorry about that. What would a third Human League album with Ian and Martyn sounded like? Glenn?
Oh, well, I don't know, but I'll tell you what, I would have loved to have heard it, personally. I'm a big Human League fan. Travelogue, absolutely one of my favourite albums in the world, still is. And I don't know, I really would have liked to have heard what a third album would have sounded like.
I can't really remember, but I suspect that were some of the things on Penthouse Pavement evolved from what we were working on?
I don't know if there were actually. I think Wichita Lineman was something maybe that you'd been kind of working on. I don't know.
It would always been for BEF though. That
was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, maybe not. Anyway, but basically, if you think about the second side of Penthouse and Pavement, the electronic side, it would have sounded a little bit like that, really, with Phil's voice on, I suppose. The Humour League were very strict about their vocals and synthesizers only policy, and that also implies Glenn had no input or ideas about the music. So basically, this guy is musing that the third Humour League album would not have sounded anything like Heaven 17.
It probably wouldn't, really, would it?
Well, at that time, I must say, when we split, we had no intention of moving away from the synthesizers only thing.
Yeah.
And it was only because the Heaven 17 thing came along that we thought, well, you know, might as well use this as an opportunity.
I know exactly the point that happened. It was when we were recording Fascist Groove Thing, and you said it'd be really funny if we had a bass solo in the middle.
Right.
If we had an actual real bass solo in the middle, and that was the moment that Real Instruments became involved.
That's right. And then you talked to
John Wilson. Yeah. And
tell the story of that. That's quite a good one.
Well, we were working in the studio in Sheffield, and as I said, Martyn had, I think, just almost joking or just like being kind of witty or funny, and it'd be great if we had a live bass solo in the middle of this track, Fascist Groove Thing. But we kind of kept it in mind, and at that time I was working at the Crucible Theatre as a stagehand, working on a pantomime. And I just happened to say in the kind of coffee break one day, does anybody play bass guitar? And one of the other guys that was working on the pantomime backstage was a guy called John Wilson, and he just put his hand up, a really quiet little guy, little black guy, really kept himself to himself. He just put his hand up, and he said, yeah, I do. So I said, do you fancy coming to the studio later on and play this track and see if you can we fancy some real bass on it? And he said, yeah, I'd love to. And so we walked down, to the studio from the theatre, which is only about 10 minutes, and he got his bass guitar out and blew us all away completely, didn't he?
He said that he'd only just bought this bass guitar in a jumble sale or something for like 10 quid.
and it wasn't his first instrument. He played guitar really, and then keyboards, and then drums, and then bass. Well,
he'd never really kind of played bass guitar at all, I think. Maybe very much at all before he did that, because he was playing it like a rhythm guitar. Fundamentally,
it sounded fantastic.
Oh yeah, it's still wait till you hear the read. Oh my god,
does it sound good?
Oh my god, people haven't heard that stuff since then.
Yeah.
It sounds, what he does in particular sounds totally on it now.
Big debt of gratitude to John Wilson.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't sound like Level 42 at all, or anything like that.
Thank God for that. I never thought it did.
No, but he could do in retrospect. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Any chance of the guys doing some gigs in Scotland? A few years ago, I went to 2 gigs at the Jaffa Cake in Edinburgh.
We were there. We did it.
We did it. Yeah. Okay. For the festival, and they were brilliant. Can we have some more, please, up here in Scotland? Oh, I know. That was during the Edinburgh Festival, wasn't it?
The ones that Glynis put on.
Oh, they were good.
We did 2 nights. It was really good nights.
Actually, that's amongst my favourite gigs.
Yeah.
We actually, at one point, were going to do a gig in Falkirk this year, but unfortunately our backing singers weren't available, so we couldn't do it.
It's a shame, though.
Because it would have been nice to do it. Anyway.
But we do like Scotland, and if the opportunity arises, we'll definitely be up there to do it.
Yeah, we've always had very kind of favourable response up there. They're just passionate about music, really, up there. So good nights out. Do you remember when we did the Banana Boat song?
Oh, a long time ago. Gary McGrotty. Well, we very first, really early M17, because we weren't playing live. We went and did a club tour where we just kind of, with backing tracks, just the 3 of us sang. But I think like Fascist Groove Thing, Play to Win, and
a PA tour, really.
Like a PA tour. But then for some reason we started the gig by singing the Banana Boat song in 3-part harmony. Take me say daylight come and me wanna go home. And I don't know why we did that, but
I absolutely think it's very strange. I don't know why we did it.
I hope there's no video evidence of that.
And you've got to bear in mind we're wearing suits and like posh hats and everything, like the cover of Penthouse and Pavement.
You just end up having so much kind of self-belief at times like that that you think you can do anything.
Well, no, we thought it was funny. We thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But actually, it was just rubbish. Probably.
Common mistake.
Yeah, talk us through the creation of a song. How is it created? What tracks are laid first?
You can do that later when you're explaining the studio when I've gone.
Time is it? We've got lots of time to go. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then
let's do it now. Let's do it now. I think it's better if we do it together.
Okay.
We generally do backing tracks first. We do work on rhythm tracks first, generally, don't we? And then we kind of narrow down the number of tracks that we do, and
we always
select the
write
best ones.
Far too many than we need. When we literally write, there's probably for the last album, there's probably another album's worth at least.
Well, there is definitely.
Yeah, that didn't get used because we kind of kept changing our minds, and that's one of the problems of doing it over such a long period, isn't it? That you kind of mind wanders and you hear something else, you think, oh, I'd like to kind of do that, or so you leave stuff behind. So
also now, what I've found is that in the last few years, working has become a very fast process because of virtual synths. And you can get stuff together really quickly, but what you need to do is give yourself space to stand back from it and find out if it's actually any good, because really you're on autopilot just creating this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And so what often happens now is we create a lot of stuff and then basically stand back a couple of weeks later and go sift through it and make sure that the ideas are any good. We do have a kind of, it's hard to believe, but we do have a process of self-editorial, and then basically we write. It's an amazing process that we do. Is basically generally we all sit in the same room together, this very room. In fact, the whole of the last album was created in this room, more or less, apart from some backing tracks that Glenn did.
But then they were only brought here and then worked on in this room.
And you can see how tiny it is, So that's all you need nowadays, frankly. Apart from you don't need helicopters flying overhead when you're doing vocals.
Or the bin men going beep, 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 beep.
But what is interesting is normally what happens, say for instance Erasure, they do, Vince does all the backing tracks and then he sends them to Andy, and Andy does the lead lines, and then they all come together for the mix. With us, it tends to all happen with everybody doing it at the same time. It's like a group effort, even for lead lines and stuff.
Yeah, which is why we end up which is why you can get a bit heated and rowing, because it's, when you, like Martyn said, when you concentrate and you're working so quickly, you can sometimes you're really zoomed in, and somebody on the outside can hear, can quite readily tell, actually that's just going the wrong way, that's not really working. And so it's normally me, and I say, actually Mark, that's not working, that's really, and then he does, what you mean it's not working, you sit here and do it then. And then so we have like 20 minutes of shouting, and then it kind of gets resolved and we change it and move it around. And but it's a good process to be involved with. It's good. I'm
sure songwriters all over the world, if they see this DVD, will understand that kind of process. What makes me laugh is Father Ted, when they're doing the song, they're writing a song for Europe.
We're not like that, are we?
Yeah, we are a bit. Like 12 hours later, and there's fags everywhere, and going, what do you mean you can't remember the first tune? Tell me what the tune was. Anyway, that sort of thing. Anyway, from not actually swearing, we're moving into quite a lot of swearing, as you can tell. But I quite like beeps. Ever since that Pussycat Doll song, where they're dancing and they beep. That covers the creative process, really. And
then when it comes to singing, the mic's set up over there with the lyrics pinned on that door, and that door there, lyrics. In fact, there's still a piece of there's still something there. Focus in on that. Look, it says write a song around bitter end.
Oh, right.
And that's because I did a track.
That's like 8 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, for something called Bitter End, and we were going to write a song around it, but we never did.
No. So there you go.
I can't even remember what it sounded like.
We may do it one day, who knows. And then generally we go and mix in a professional recording studio. But nowadays, actually, I don't think there's any need to anymore.
No, I don't. I mean, just mastering is what you need to do still.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't think you need to go into a studio to mix.
No, I don't think so. And I think that's the real reason why a lot of studios are going bankrupt, frankly.
So that's it, really.
That's the
kind of
creative
little-
process, yes. Whilst I'm led to believe some of the mysterious French film project ended up as Pleasure One, what can the boys tell us about the film itself?
The film itself was made, I believe,
It was.
with Julie McGuinness-Johnson, who was an opera singer.
She wanted to be Barbara Streisand, though,
Yeah,
didn't
I
she?
think it's probably absolute garbage, to be honest, because I mean, the idea of it was kind of reasonably alright, kind of science fiction, singer taken over by hologram type thing, isn't it? That malarkey. But we had a very traumatic and funny time working out there. I mean, it was quite hard work. Believe it or not, it was quite hard work living in Paris for 3 or 4 weeks, working on the soundtrack, because it was getting really intense. So intense at one point, someone pulled a gun on our manager in a car.
That's right.
At which point we'd walked out and said we're not doing it anymore, and we'd all gone back to the hotel, and we were in the sauna with Jeremy, the engineer that we'd taken out there,
that's right.
myself, Martyn and Ian, and quite a few other people were in the sauna, just all sitting there, just kind of musing on what had gone on. And I'm glad that we walked out, really, because it was just chaos. Suddenly the door flings open. In walks Keith Borton, our manager, fully dressed in his suit and his metal briefcase, puts the metal briefcase down and just blows up about how some has just pulled a gun on him in a car, and we've got, we're out of here now, and we're leaving, and we're not coming back. And so it was just a fantastic, hilarious scene with him, all these people looking at Keith like that. Oh my God! and he opened the door to the sauna and stomped out in his suit, quickly followed by the 4 of us in white towels, just walking and huffing out of the sauna. But we did actually go back again and do some more work after that.
Yeah, I've got a funny story. They actually said to us, we did some writing for it, and a couple of tracks on Pleasure One. There was
I think
Red,
Red, yeah.
wasn't it?
I can't remember what other ones.
And anyway, and we came up with this particular scene that was like a big scene for her, Julie McGuinness-Johnson, for singing this song Red. And a couple of days later, we hadn't heard from them, and they said, we've got an idea that we'd like to bring somebody in to write the melodies for you. I'm going, I don't think that's going to happen. And who is it? And it turned out to be Michel Legrand, right? Who were friends of theirs. And we went, oh yeah, Big Mick. Yeah. No, that's not going to happen either. So basically the whole thing started falling apart. And when we realised that they weren't going to pay us the full amount, or we suspected, we decided on the last night to go. We had an open tab at the hotel we were staying at, which had 3 restaurants in it: a Japanese, a French, and an Italian, I think.
Yeah.
We ate in all 3 restaurants that night just to use up as much money as possible, and then we went to their whiskey bar.
We had a competition, didn't we? So you could run up the biggest bar tab.
Yeah. They had a very specialist whiskey bar which featured jazz artists as well. And that night Dizzy Gillespie was on. So we got in, went to see, not that bothered about Dizzy Gillespie, but we were bothered about the 400 quid bottles of scotch that we piled into. I think we bought 2 of them. And
I think you won on the bar bill.
Yeah.
And it was really high. It was,
yes. Anyway, so it was about $3,000 the whole experience that night that we managed to rack up to the film.
It's only because we wouldn't normally have done that. You must understand. It's only because they refused to pay us. So we just thought, well, we'll have a blowout at the hotel.
Anyway, so we kind of patched it up after that a little bit, and our manager managed to get them to actually sign a cheque to go to the bank with them and actually see this cheque being signed over for the remainder of what they owed us. We got a taxi to the airport. By the time we got back to London, they cancelled the cheque. So this is a little warning to anybody thinking about working with French production companies.
Be careful.
Be careful, very careful.
It's a jungle out there.
Would you have done anything different in your musical career with the benefit of hindsight? Do you have any unfulfilled ambitions?
Very good question. Anything different?
I think the period round about Teddy Bear Duke and Psycho, I think we should have bailed out earlier from that idea. But it's like when you're on when you're on a path, it's hard to get away from that path.
Yeah, it's hard to see when you're in the middle of the forest. It's hard to
no, it's right though. I mean,
it's hard to see away what's wrong and what's right.
But generally, not really any regrets or very much else. I suppose one thing that would have been nice would have been...
That bell, by the way, is the Rag and Bone man.
Yeah, when he comes round, he doesn't like anything old though. So it's like, any new technology? Any brand new Intel Macs? You know, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it would have been nice to keep to kind of electronic music a bit more. I think we went down a long way down the path of going away from it to the point where we actually lost sight of what we were originally about.
Yeah, and that's why I do like, having not particularly liked Pleasure One as much and Teddy Bear and Psycho, I do like Bigger Than America, because it kind
very
of
much
came right back to that. You know, it was like we'd taken two sides of Penthouse and Pavement. The Penthouse side and the Pavement side, electronic and kind of bandy, you know, instruments, and we took that path. And it wasn't until we came, you know, we'd gone all the way down there that we then came back and say, okay, what would it have been like if we'd have gone electronic? And that was Bigger Than America, and I do really like that album.
I do, and I really like Before and After, because it's like an extension of that path.
Yes,
as
exactly.
Well.
Yeah,
it's leading on from the path established by Bigger Than America.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually think that Before or After is the best album we've done since How Men Are, which is 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And so, you know, I think it's well worth buying for anybody who's not actually bought it yet. What was the rest of the question about? It was, do you have any unfulfilled ambitions? I know what I was going to say. We were offered a lot of money to tour in America, weren't we?
Yeah.
Remember that Coors? We were going to sponsor a big tour, $1 million thing, and we turned it down for like, you know, for dogmatic reasons.
Yeah.
And I think in retrospect,
perhaps we should have done.
We should have done that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a regret.
Yeah.
But c'est la vie.
When recording Penthouse and Pavement, did you feel it would be the monster that it is? And do you still get the buzz of recording after so many albums? Let's do that, the first bit first.
Penthouse and Pavement, didn't know it was going to be as kind of commercially successful as it was, but I always absolutely loved every track on it personally. I always, you know, thought this is great, actually, you know, really liked it. I remember leaving your house one day when we'd had in Sheffield, when we were still kind of halfway through recording it, and we'd been out all night with Bob Last, and
I saw Bob Last the other day.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Is he alright?
Looks the same, greyer.
Cool. Are you still with Hillary?
Not sure.
Anyway, we'd been out all night, and Bob had given me, he said, I'll give you a lift home, where do you live? And I was kind of, you know, the other side of Sheffield, and he was driving back to Scotland, and so he'd take me in the car, but we got so kind of we were so kind of heads up and excited and talking about it, that I kind of suddenly thought, where the are we? And we were like, literally, you know, we'd headed out of Sheffield, and he was going up the A, whatever it is, towards Scotland. I said, Bob, you better drop me off, mate. And this is about 4 a.m. He said, well, I said, yeah, I'm vaguely know I'm kind of that way.
Yeah.
And I got out of the car, and I'd got a Walkman, the original Walkman, and I'd got the tracks on, and I walked for 3.5 hours it took me to get home, and I was going across fields, through housing estates, and the whole time I'd got like the album going on, and I just didn't feel it at all. It was fantastic. It's just brilliant. I always absolutely thoroughly loved that album.
Yeah, and I must say, from the point of view of myself, Penthouse and Pavement is just, you know, a lot of stuff is about timing really, and I think it was just the right time for something that was a hybrid of kind of a dance orientated album, but also featuring electronics. It was really a very unusual album to be successful as well, because it was quite daring at the time, I thought. Obviously, moving on from that to Luxury Gap, that was a more deliberate attempt to be successful and enter the mainstream, and I think that worked as well, amazingly. It wasn't the difficult second album for us, it was probably the difficult third and fourth.
Yeah.
Although I really like How Men Are as well, I have to say. I've been listening to that quite a lot recently.
Yeah, I think that's right.
It's a good album. The second part of that question was, do you still get the buzz of recording after so many albums?
No, it's not the same. I don't think it is personally. It's I mean, at the time, you know, we were just completely living it then, weren't we? It was, you know, when you wrote an album, we were Heaven 17, lock, stock and barrel. You know, that was our morning, afternoon and night. We were kind of working, and if we weren't working, we were out together, kind of networking. So it's incredibly exciting. You know, you're meeting new people, you're going to places you never thought you'd go to. It's an amazing thing to do. You know, it's a real buzz. So obviously, as your life progresses, that's going to drop off quite a lot, and it does. But it's still very exciting, and when things go well, and you hear them back, you still get the same kind of excitement. But it's the whole package that's not the same, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree completely. And it's, you know, we've got different. The core of our lives is different now. I mean, obviously, when you have children, the whole emphasis of your life changes completely, I think. That's the key thing. Also, you know, you move in different social circles. Both myself and Glenn have got production companies that do different things. I'm moving in a kind of artistic circle now. Glenn's in the kind of television and film craft field. It's you know, a different set of imperatives completely. So while it's not gone down so far in importance as it becoming a hobby, for instance, it is of less core importance. And I know that's going to upset some of the fans, but I'd rather be honest about it than, you know, it's a bit like when you treasure the photos from that particular time or the scrapbooks or whatever. But, you know, acknowledgement that times change is a very important thing as well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's any less. I don't think we care any less about the music that we do.
Oh, absolutely. We're still passionate about that. But it's just the amount of time that you can actually devote to it is limited.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of, we can't spend, as we did for creating Before After, for instance, we spent, you know, basically a year sitting in this room making that album. We don't have time to do that anymore. We actually got to earn money as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's just a pragmatic thing. It's pity. Actually, some millionaire came along and you know, gave us enough money to live on to create a Heaven 17 album for 3 months, and nothing would make me personally happier than to do that. But it's you know, we have to go out and actually create some wealth. You know, that's the thing. With a rather extensive back catalogue and the demands of the fans, how was the set list put together?
For the Scala gig, I guess.
Yeah, for the Scala gig.
It was difficult, actually. We were kind of ummed and ahed for ages, didn't we? We worked quite hard. I mean, I did a couple of new versions of old tracks. I did one which didn't make it. It sounded great in the studio. It was a Penthouse and Pavement, wasn't it?
I really liked it. I listened to it the other day.
I really like it, but it just didn't seem to work live, did it?
Live, no.
I mean, I think that was part of the fact that the girls were just freaked out by it.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't really give it a go.
And we didn't really have time to kind of persuade them.
No, because we only had one day's rehearsal.
Yeah.
And it immediately started, you know, they were like, oh, what's the key? What's going on? You know, all right. And then I'd left the intro stupidly long as well, so everyone was freaked out by that.
Yeah.
And we hadn't really got time to kind of work it out, but it's a really good version.
Which nobody's heard outside us, so that's something to look forward to. And then also we took notes of the popular songs on the website and the fan groups, and
which is why we did look ahead on the screen, some perfect pictures.
That's good. I like that version.
16. Yeah, I like that too.
I really am not so. I mean, there are various songs that I really like from Heaven 17 that we've never found a way of doing live. I'm Your Money we mentioned before. And that's no lie. In fact, a lot of the ones that are based on real instruments are very difficult to play live without a real band, without it sounding like karaoke. So unless we do a kind of electronic version of them, and oftentimes it doesn't work. So obviously we'd love to do stuff like And That's No Lie, because it's just a brilliant. I'll say so myself. I think it's a brilliant piece of work, but I can't think of a way of doing it that would adapt to live without having a live guitarist, for instance.
Yeah, I think that's, you could maybe get away with that one. That's one of the ones that you might get away with. But what were one of the other ones that we tried really to do? I'm Your Money.
Oh, Sunset Now, because of the
because of the horns.
Because of the horns. You know, what you're going to do, replace those with synthetic horns, it's going to sound rubbish. So
another one that I find difficult personally is Play to Win. I know we've done it a couple of times, but
I kind of like that version. Anyway, but there are various things that concentrate on guitar and real instruments that we found difficult to adapt.
Yeah.
And the only way that we could really do those live is if we did a really big band, you know, with proper guitarists, and then it starts looking a bit old-fashioned and rock, and it's money as well, you know. So, so that's the answer to that question. I've read somewhere, perhaps Midgeur's autobiography, which is
a fine tome.
A fine tome now available for £3.99 at the Works round the corner.
Rush and get it, I say.
Yeah.
I mentioned it.
He is. I'm not. And and that your first performance, that your performance on the first Tube show for Channel 4 outshone the Jam, who got all the headlines. Why didn't this give you the live bug?
I don't know. Again, it was the same kind of musicians that we've just been talking about, wasn't it? It was Phil and Tim and Randy and all, you know, all those guys. And I don't know. It was probably a little bit too late, really, for the live thing to kind of kick in. Or I don't know. We were too ingrained in not doing it at that point, I think.
I think there was a certain element of. There was always a kind of trump card that we were keeping up our sleeves. I remember thinking this, that if everything's got desperate, we could always play live and then people would come and see us. Not really appreciating the passage of time and how it alters things.
Yeah.
And that you still think you're the centre of the universe, you know, and that people are still that bothered. Now, I know that people are that bothered, particularly the people who bought this DVD, but on a big scale.
Yeah.
So some of it was egotism, some of it was just dogmatism, and some of it was just
being scared.
Yeah, and scared that you might not actually be any good.
No, I was incredibly nervous on that Tube.
That was a good programme, though.
Yeah, it's good. That's where we met John Lloyd, isn't it?
Yeah.
For the first
We're still mates with John, and would have been mates with Paula if she'd managed to be on this planet any longer.
Yeah. Good programme.
Yeah, it was. Now, that's the end of those.
So thank you for that.
This is a little tour of the Heaven 17 studio artwork and Martyn's collection of knickknacks. His kind of little robots and his little toys and things like that. Have you seen these? What are these called?
These are called homies.
These are Martyn's homies.
You can buy them in America. They're very cool. They're all like kind of Puerto Rican street gangs and stuff. Thought you'd like that.
That one looks a little bit like you, actually.
Oh, thanks, mate. Cheers. This one looks like you.
Oh, right, yeah. It does. It just looks like me there. Without the costume on. Without my skinny M17 costume on.
Let's talk about Penthouse and Pavement then, shall we?
Yeah, that's the first one.
It's fading a bit, actually, isn't it? It's a pity.
Is it? Do you get sun on it there?
Not very much, but it's still. This was written anyway. It's painted by Ray Smith, who painted our first 3 covers, and actually bigger than America as well, wasn't it? Yeah. And some very interesting stuff. If you look at the painting, I just want to point something out to you. Number 1, I can't write music. This is a lie. Because it says Penthouse and Pavement there. It's as though I'm writing music. But I can write music, but I can't write physical music. Also here we have Penny.
I can't remember his surname.
Penny, who's now head of all the Virgin Studios here. And she was a receptionist at the time. Very interesting.
And you've got a fag in your hand.
Yeah, have I?
Yeah.
Where?
On your head.
I have! Crikey!
Never noticed.
That's controversial, isn't it?
They were all shots that were taken in the townhouse studios.
That's right.
That's where we were recording those.
Yes.
Obviously, apart from the building, which was, I believe,
Euston, wasn't it?
near Euston. Yeah.
Very modern at the time.
Exactly.
Now.
And of course, the iconic, now so readily available Bic pen.
Ah, yes.
There you go. You see, moments like this, and then we move on to the next album cover,
Sorry, it's
which is
kind of...
under the surround sound speakers.
And it's got a very strange thing here, which is to stop the speaker falling down. It's nothing to do with the painting. But, me with a 5 o'clock shadow. The idea behind the picture, obviously, is ostensibly it looks like a luxury location that we're in. But if you obviously think we're wearing kind of wintry clothes, so it doesn't quite fit in with all this. And then you turn onto the back cover, and it's actually a billboard in front of a very severe kind of scrap heap industrial location.
And we were actually photographed on the roof of Air Studios for that picture, and it was freezing cold. And then Ray painted us in front of that. And if anybody's interested, that is a car breaker's yard in Willesden.
That's right, I remember. Yeah.
So there you go. And I've still got that shirt.
Have you?
Yeah.
Crikey.
It's kind of fallen apart a lot, but I've still got it. Yeah.
That leather jacket wouldn't fit round my thigh now.
Can you get Thailand? They sound quite nice. And then we moved straight onto the big one behind me for How Men Are. And again, this was a kind of, I think this was...
Let me move this out of the way for you a
This
second.
is mainly Ray's idea, I think, you know. A lot of the, or the kind of... It was kind of the joke thing that we were playing live, you see, because at this point we certainly didn't play live still. And, you know, I was in front of this big audience, and then us looking much more relaxed. And then the surreal elements of the hanging fish and roses. And once again, a little bit of information, this is actually Carnegie Hall.
No, Radio City Music
That's
Hall.
actually Radio City Music Hall.
Yeah.
How do you get to Radio City Music Hall?
Practice.
Thank you. Any other information?
Well, I'd just like to say that if you look carefully, this is how much detail Ray puts into his paintings. He's actually got all these elements, which are apparently hovering in midair, suspended by invisible wires from the roof.
As are the letters.
As are the letters, which is just completely a strange...
And you never get that on the sleeve, you see.
No,
you don't pick that up on the well, certainly not on the CD.
Yeah. And once again, Ian looks kind of distracted and not really part of the scene. And I think it's quite interesting that he portrayed us like this. Because he obviously saw something in the kind of the whole scenario that we weren't really aware of at the time. And that's what a great artist does.
Yeah. Some of Martyn's little knick-knacks up there. Look.
Yes, some classic robots.
Then if you move on to some pictures around here, which you won't have seen, because they never made it, but Bigger Than America, these were all kind of rough artworks that were...
No, these were finished ones.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes, but didn't make the...
Yes.
Didn't get there. If you look behind the Korg synthesizer here, which I shall happily move for you, there's a very nice one with us with some of the world's greatest leaders.
It's a G7 summit with us actually in the crowd, if you look carefully, in the centre, next to the back row, and also at the front. And I think that's a brilliant piece of artwork. I would love it to death.
I'm just going to go get that one off the wall.
Yeah, get the one off the wall upstairs, because I really like that one too. At one point, the Bigger Than America album we were going to call Space Age Space Music. I thought it was a very funny title. And Ray Smith did a study, a painting for a potential front cover, which has never been obviously used. So, and here it is. Glenn will now show you this.
It's originally...
I told him.
Oh. So I'd forgotten, so I just read it there.
Yeah.
What, the title as well?
Yeah.
Was it going to be... What did you think it was going to be called?
Space Age Space Music.
Yeah, but I actually think it was going to be called Space Age Space Music for Spacemen.
Oh, right.
Which
yeah.
he didn't have on here.
No, he couldn't fit it on.
But that was going to be the cover.
I love that. And the idea was, it was about... Because it took us so long to do that album. It was about waiting, very, very bored for liftoff in our career, really. So we thought an analogy of this was us as astronauts waiting to launch at the launch pad, and like obviously we've got bottles of wine, bored with all the magazines, and Glenn looking monumentally bored. I'm particularly bored.
I'm quite good at actually. Looking particularly.
And waiting in these fantastic costumes, waiting for the future to arrive, which of course did arrive in the year 2000.
So I actually think there's a ashtray there, and you've got a fag in your hand again.
Again?
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
I don't know. Obviously sees you as a heavy smoker, but you're not.
Oh, not at all. No.
So that was going to be the cover for Big in America, and it was going to be called Space Age Music for Space People. That's what
Space,
it
was it?
Yeah, Space Age Space Music for Space People.
Yeah.
Which I really like.
I might do it.
Yeah.
Just knock it out.
We could do an EP.
Knock it out, get on the radio, get to the kids.
An EP.
Let's do an EP. And then we've got a ready-made cover, haven't we?
Exactly.
And we just draw on.
We'll do an iTunes EP called Space Age Space Music for Space People.
That's a great idea. I love that idea. There we go. You're at
the inception.
You're at the conception. Inception. Basically, the point where the spermatozoa enters the egg of the creative idea.
That's it. We're going to do it.
This was a homeless man in New York who painted this, and I just liked it. It was when the war was starting, and he sold it for $2. I kind of like that.
That's another Ray Smith one. We used to have a kind of ongoing battle with Ray Smith, a kind of art correspondence.
Yeah.
Where he had a company called the Quality Exclusive Vulgarised and Art Enhanced for Baggermen, which was us. The Quality Rubber Arts Goods Company, which was him. Somerset Original Art, and we used to send each other works of art via the post, and that's one of Ray's. And I don't know, I suppose he's still got all that.
Oh, he has, and he was talking to me about them because I keep in contact with Ray. We're working together on creating some stuff for a special school in Bath, in Somerset, and he was talking about it the other day, and it got to the point where we would empty like an ashtray and send it to him, for instance, as an artwork. Or one of the things we did was a case for cufflinks, beautiful kind of satin thing, and we actually cut the heads off small plastic soldiers, painted them with blood, and put them set into this beautiful thing, and as a kind of latent threat, really, that unless Quality Rubber Art Goods gave up sending us stuff, then we would continue to send him increasingly threatening artworks. And it worked, actually. He stopped sending us stuff after that. There's one more thing here. Hold on.
Found some more stuff.
Yeah, hold on.
Oh yeah, that's Ray's as well.
This is Ray's. He claimed that this is a kind of antenna that was reporting back to base about our actions over the years.
I think we better stop this now because we'll sound completely insane. But this is the kind of thing you do when you're locked in a kind of studio for 3 or 4 months at a time. You tend to do daft things. And this is it. Oh, that's sweet. There's Ian, everybody.
This is from a video that we did, which was kind of curated, if you like, by Ray, where we used various cutouts and kind of like it was a puppetry thing for Sunset Now, which I've never seen the light of day really because it was so rubbish, but I liked it. It was quite good.
I think it was on GMTV one morning.
Yeah,
it's the only time it ever got ahead. Wow, I don't know if I can ever watch this. I really
it's just the most brilliant thing.
Jesus
One
Christ.
of our fans, Volker Bertner, has created a DVD of all our all our appearances on TV shows in Europe, together with all our videos that were ever shown. But you've got to bear in mind that these TV appearances, of which we did very many, we never saw any of them afterwards because we left the country directly afterwards. So it's like opening a kind of time capsule. I've actually got no recollection whatsoever about some of these. None.
Crikey, there's tons of stuff on there.
It's fantastic, mate. You're going to freak out.
And just for you lot, there's quite a lot of... Oh no, there's no Train of Love in Motion. What will we do?
There is from sports.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, I'm sure there is somewhere. Hey.
Wow, thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you, Volker.
Volker, thank you. Very kind.
The Human League were recently given a Innovation in Sound Award by Q Awards, to which myself and Ian, were not invited. We were not terribly impressed because basically the innovation in sound happened when we were, well, partly when we were at part of the group. So we actually lobbied Q and said, look, we need a copy of this as well. So we got one. I thought that's quite funny. Number one.
Me one.
You weren't part of it.
I know, but could have got me one anyway.
And this is an award that we actually made for ourselves to celebrate being a team member of British Electric Foundation in 1992. I gave it to all the people who were involved, and we had a big celebration dinner, and it was lovely. There you go. See, you don't have to win awards; you just make your own.
Okay, Martin. Thanks very much for that lovely little chat about the past. Thank you for so many questions.
And the future.
And the future. Let's not forget the future. And I look forward to Dark.
Yes.
Stroke. What was the stroke?
Stroke sensitive. Bit like a condom.
Dark stroke sensitive. Right. Yeah. Feeling is everything. You know, remember that line from Hands Up to Heaven? Feeling is everything. That's from a condom machine.
Is that right?
I got that from a condom machine. Yeah.
Wow. Lyric writing techniques. That was a thing, wasn't it? We did some very strange things.
You get them everywhere, don't you?
Yeah.
So, but that's it. I've got to go now. So, I hope you enjoy the DVD, and I'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.